when everything feels like too much at once. There are moments when nothing is technically wrong, and yet something inside you feels heavy. You wake up already tired, your body moves through the day, but your breath never quite drops all the way down. You finish tasks, answer messages, show up where you're expected to be, and still there is a quiet sense of strain beneath it all. Often, this kind of exhaustion does not come from one big event. It comes from accumulation, from holding too many thoughts at once, from staying alert long after the moment that required it has passed, from being asked again and again to be available, capable, steady. You may have wondered if this means something is wrong with you, if you should be coping better, if others seem to manage what you cannot. But what you are feeling is not a failure of strength or character. It is a nervous system that has been carrying more than it was meant to carry alone. There is nothing you need to solve here right now, nothing you need to fix or understand immediately. You are not expected to perform clarity or insight in this space. It is enough to arrive as you are, with whatever weight you are holding. If your attention drifts, that is fine. If your body wants to soften, even slightly, you can allow that. We will not rush. We will not demand progress. In this time together, we are simply noticing what it feels like to be overloaded, without turning that experience into a judgment. From here, gently, a different kind of understanding can begin to form. When the body carries more than the mind can name, there is a particular kind of heaviness that does not announce itself loudly. It does not arrive with panic or tears or obvious collapse. It moves quietly, settling into the body while the mind keeps going. You might notice it in the way your shoulders stay lifted even when you are sitting still, or in how your jaw tightens without asking permission, or in the shallow rhythm of your breath, never quite reaching the places that soften you. This is not dramatic suffering. It is persistent, and because it does not look urgent, it often goes unnoticed. Most people who feel this way do not think of themselves as overwhelmed. They think they are just tired, or distracted, or unmotivated. They tell themselves they should rest more, focus better, be more disciplined. But what the body is experiencing is not laziness or weakness. It is load. Load accumulates slowly. It builds when there is too much to track at once, too many roles being held without pause, too many expectations running quietly in the background of every moment. You may be holding the emotional weather of other people, their moods, their needs, their disappointments. You may be managing outcomes that have not happened yet, rehearsing conversations that may never occur, preparing yourself for situations that are not here. The mind becomes a storage room with no shelves left, and the body becomes the place where the excess goes. This is how overload works. It is not one heavy thing. It is many small things never put down. Often, the habit begins early. You learned, at some point, that staying alert kept you safe, that noticing everything reduced risk, that being prepared was better than being surprised. So the body adapted. It learned to brace, to stay slightly tense, even in neutral moments, to treat stillness as something to monitor rather than something to enter. Over time, this becomes familiar, so familiar that you may not even recognize it as tension anymore. It feels like baseline. You might sit down at the end of the day and feel unable to rest. Your body is still moving inside. Your thoughts keep scanning. You scroll, read, watch, distract, not because you want stimulation, but because stopping feels uncomfortable. Stillness can feel unsafe to a system that has been trained to stay on. There is no fault in this. Your body has been trying to protect you. In mindfulness traditions, there is a simple observation. The body responds before the mind explains. Long before a story forms, the nervous system has already decided whether to soften or brace. When overload is present, the body rarely chooses to soften, even when nothing is wrong. You might notice that rest does not restore you the way it used to. Sleep may come, but the tiredness remains. Moments of quiet might feel flat instead of nourishing. This can be confusing. You are doing what should help, and yet something remains unresolved. That something is not a problem to be solved. It is a signal asking to be listened to. The Buddha spoke of suffering not as punishment, but as friction. The friction that arises when holding continues longer than it needs to, when the body keeps gripping even after the moment has passed. Overload is a form of that friction. You are not broken because you feel this way. You are carrying more than one system is meant to carry alone. Many people try to address overload by pushing harder, by organizing better, by optimizing their time, by learning new strategies to cope. But coping does not reduce load. It only helps you tolerate it longer. What begins to help is something much quieter. The moment you recognize that the weight you feel is real, that it has a shape in the body, that it is not imaginary or exaggerated, there is a subtle relief when you stop arguing with your own nervous system. You may notice that when you read or hear these words, something in you recognizes itself, not as an idea, but as a physical response. Perhaps a small exhale, perhaps a softening you did not realize was possible. That response matters. It means your body understands before your mind does. Right now, there is no need to analyze where all the weight came from. There is no need to trace every cause or assign responsibility. That work can come later, or not at all. For now, it is enough to notice this. You are tired because you have been holding. You are tense because you have been staying ready. You are overwhelmed because your system has not been allowed to fully settle. This is not a personal failure. It is a natural response to sustained demand. If it feels right, take a moment to notice your breath without changing it. Just notice where it is, high or low, fast or slow, easy or strained. You do not need to fix it. Awareness alone is already a shift. There is a difference between effort and presence. Effort tries to make something happen. Presence allows what is already happening to be felt. For many people, this is the first step out of overload. Not rest, not solutions, but recognition. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are not behind. You are not failing at life. You are overloaded. An overload can be met with care, slowly, gently, without force. If some part of you feels seen here, you do not need to hold on to that. You do not need to remember every word. It is enough to let the body register that its experience makes sense. We will move forward from this place, not by adding more, but by learning how to let a little less be carried at once. There is another layer to overload that is harder to see. It lives beneath the obvious tiredness, beneath the sense of having too much to do. It is the quiet belief that you must stay available in order to be okay. Many people carry this without ever naming it. A background vigilance, a sense that if you relax too much, something will fall apart. Someone will need you. You will miss something important. You will be unprepared. So even rest becomes an activity, something monitored, something you do with one eye open. You may lie down, but your body does not fully arrive. You may stop working, but your mind keeps circling unfinished threads. You may tell yourself it is safe now, yet your system does not quite believe it. This is not stubbornness, it is conditioning. At some point, your nervous system learned that staying ready mattered. Perhaps there was unpredictability. Perhaps you had to mature early. Perhaps you became the one others leaned on, long before you were ready. The details are different for everyone, but the imprint is similar. Stay alert. Stay useful. Do not let your guard down. Over time, this stance becomes so familiar that its absence feels strange. Softness can feel like emptiness. Ease can feel like exposure. This is why telling yourself to relax rarely works. The body does not respond to commands. It responds to safety. In mindfulness practice, there is a gentle understanding. The body releases when it feels met, not managed. When it senses permission rather than pressure, overload begins to ease. Not when you do more self-care, but when something inside you realizes it does not have to stay braced all the time. This realization is not cognitive. It does not come from insight alone. It comes from repeated moments of being allowed to be as you are, without consequence. You might notice it first in very small ways. A breath that drops a little lower than usual. A pause between thoughts that lasts half a second longer. A moment when you do not immediately reach for distraction. These are not achievements. They are signs of trust beginning to form. Trust that nothing bad happens when you soften, just slightly. Trust that you are not required to hold everything together in every moment. Many people fear that if they stop carrying so much, they will become careless or disconnected. But overload does not equal responsibility. And releasing excess does not mean abandoning what matters. It means discerning what is actually yours to hold. There is a difference between care and vigilance. Care has warmth. Vigilance has tension. When the body is overloaded, even care starts to feel like vigilance. You may find yourself worrying about people you love long after the interaction has ended, replaying conversations, wondering if you said the wrong thing, thinking about how to prevent future discomfort. This is not love. It is fear wearing love's clothing, and fear is heavy. Part of healing overload is allowing care to soften back into care, to notice when concern turns into strain, to recognize when your body is doing more than is needed in the moment. This noticing does not require judgment. It requires honesty. Right now, there may be areas of your life where your system is over-functioning, where you are anticipating needs that have not been asked of you, where you are carrying emotional responsibility that does not belong to you. You do not need to identify all of them at once. That would only add more. It is enough to become curious about one small place, one relationship, one pattern, not to change it yet, just to see it. If you pause for a moment and ask your body, very gently, what am I holding right now that could be set down, even for a moment? You may feel an answer that is not verbal, a sensation, a heaviness shifting, a resistance. Whatever arises is information, not instruction. In Buddhist teaching, there is an emphasis on right effort, effort that is aligned, not strained, effort that knows when to engage and when to rest. Overload is often the result of effort without rest, attention without release, care without replenishment. The practice is not to eliminate effort, but to restore rhythm, breathing in, breathing out, holding, letting go. You have likely been breathing in for a very long time. It is okay to exhale. This does not mean everything will resolve immediately. It does not mean your life will suddenly feel light, but it does mean your body can begin to trust that relief is possible. Sometimes, the most meaningful shift is simply this, realizing that the tension you feel is not who you are. It is something you have been doing, and anything that is being done can, eventually, be undone. Not all at once, not forcefully, but gradually, as safety returns. If it feels right, take one slow breath now, not to calm yourself, just to mark this moment. Inhale, noticing where the breath stops. Exhale, noticing what softens, even slightly. There is no correct outcome. This is not a technique. It is an introduction to the possibility that you do not have to live in a constant state of holding, that your body is allowed to experience moments where nothing is required of it. We will continue to explore this together, at a pace that respects how much you have already been carrying. For now, it is enough to know this. The heaviness you feel has a reason, and it can be met with patience rather than pressure. Nothing more is needed in this moment. The quiet fear of falling behind while standing still. There is a particular anxiety that does not come from danger. It comes from comparison, from the sense that time is moving and you are not moving with it. You may notice it when you pause, when there is a rare open moment and instead of relief, a subtle panic rises, a feeling that you should be doing something, improving, catching up, proving that you are still moving forward. This fear is not loud. It does not shout. It hums quietly in the background of ordinary days. You might be resting, yet thinking about what you are not accomplishing. You might be enjoying something, yet feeling a pull toward what you should be focusing on instead. Even moments meant for recovery become tinged with guilt. This is not ambition. It is pressure disguised as responsibility. Many people live with an internal clock that never stops ticking, not because time is actually running out, but because they have learned to measure their worth by motion, by productivity, by visible progress. When you stop, the measuring starts. You may have absorbed this slowly, from environments where rest had to be earned, where being still meant being lazy, where slowing down felt like falling behind others who seemed to manage more with less effort. Over time, this comparison becomes internal. You no longer need external pressure. Your own mind does the work. You track yourself, judge yourself, push yourself forward even when your body asks for pause. This creates a particular kind of overload, not from tasks alone, but from self-monitoring. The mind stays busy not because there is too much to do, but because it is afraid of what might happen if it stops evaluating. What if I lose momentum? What if I become irrelevant? What if others move ahead and I stay where I am? These thoughts often appear as motivation, but their tone is tight, urgent, unforgiving. They do not feel like encouragement. They feel like threat. The body responds accordingly. It tightens. It speeds up. It stays alert, even when nothing is required. In mindfulness practice, there is a gentle insight. The mind that is afraid of stillness has learned to associate safety with motion. As long as something is happening, it believes you are protected. Stillness feels exposed. This is why slowing down can feel so uncomfortable at first. It is not just physical rest. It is stepping out of the familiar structure that told you who you were. Without movement, without output, without evidence of progress, you may feel unsure of your place. Who am I if I am not advancing? What do I offer if I am not improving? Am I still enough? These questions do not arise because you lack value. They arise because your value has been tied to effort for a very long time. This connection is heavy, and it is fragile, because effort cannot be sustained endlessly. Eventually, the body resists. Fatigue appears. Motivation drops. Focus becomes harder to maintain. And instead of recognizing this as a signal to rest, many people interpret it as failure. They push harder. They criticize themselves. They try to force movement from a system that needs pause. This deepens the overload. There is a quieter way of seeing this. What if the feeling of falling behind is not a sign that you are actually behind, but a sign that you are measuring yourself by a pace that no longer fits you? What if stillness is not the problem, but the fear attached to it? The Buddha observed that much suffering comes not from pain itself, but from the resistance to how things are unfolding. When the body slows, the mind often fights it, not because slowing is harmful, but because it threatens an identity built on constant motion. You may notice this in small moments. Sitting without checking something, resting without planning the next step, pausing without justifying the pause. Even brief stillness can trigger discomfort. That discomfort does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means you are touching a habit that has been in place for a long time, a habit of equating worth with forward motion. There is grief here, often unrecognized. Grief for the energy you once had, for the pace you could once maintain, for the version of yourself who could keep going without consequences. Acknowledging this grief is not giving up. It is honesty, and honesty creates space. Right now, you may not know what a different rhythm looks like. You may not trust that slowing down will not cost you something important. That is okay. Trust does not arrive all at once. It arrives in moments. Moments where you pause and nothing terrible happens. Moments where stillness does not erase you. Moments where your value remains intact, even when nothing is being produced. These moments are subtle, easy to miss, but they matter. They begin to loosen the grip of that internal clock. You are not late. You are not failing to keep up. You are listening to something deeper than speed. And that listening is not backward. It is wise. For now, it is enough to notice this fear without feeding it, to recognize when the pressure to move faster arises, to feel it in the body, not to obey it automatically. If it feels right, take a moment now. Notice where urgency lives in you, perhaps in the chest, perhaps in the stomach, perhaps in the breath. You do not need to remove it. Just notice it. This noticing is the beginning of a different relationship with time, one that does not require you to outrun yourself. We will continue to explore this gently. There is no race here. There is another side to this fear that often stays hidden. It is the part that wonders what will be left if you stop striving. Many people have never met themselves outside of effort. Their sense of identity has been shaped through doing, through meeting expectations, through moving forward, even when tired. When that movement slows, there can be a strange emptiness, not relief, not peace, but a hollow space where the next task used to be. This emptiness can feel unsettling, as if something essential has gone missing, as if without momentum, you might disappear. So the mind rushes to fill it with plans, with goals, with comparisons. Better to feel pressured than to feel unanchored. But what if that empty space is not a void? What if it is simply unfamiliar? In many contemplative traditions, stillness is not absence. It is presence without agenda, a way of being that does not require constant justification. For someone who has lived inside forward motion for a long time, this can feel disorienting at first. You may notice boredom, restlessness, a subtle anxiety that asks, "Now what?" These sensations are not signs that stillness is wrong. They are signs that your system is learning a new language, the language of not rushing. Learning any new language feels awkward at the beginning. You do not know where to place your attention. You do not trust yourself to respond correctly. You want to return to what you already know. The same is true here. The practice is not to force yourself to like stillness. It is to stay long enough to realize that you survive it, that nothing essential is lost when you pause, that your value does not evaporate in the absence of productivity. There may even be moments when something gentle surfaces, a feeling, a memory, a quiet sadness you did not have space to feel before. This is not regression, it is integration. When the pressure to move eases, what has been waiting underneath finally has room to appear. This can be tender, and it deserves care. You are not required to process everything at once. You are not required to make meaning immediately. Sometimes, the most healing response is simply allowing what arises to exist without commentary. The Buddha spoke of equanimity as a balance of presence, not indifference, not detachment, but the ability to stay with experience without being pushed or pulled by it. Equanimity does not mean you stop caring about your life. It means you stop being driven by fear of falling behind. This is a profound shift, because when fear loosens its grip, choice becomes possible. You may still move forward, you may still grow, but the movement comes from alignment, not panic. You begin to sense when effort is appropriate and when it is not, when rest is restorative and when it is avoidance, when stillness is needed and when engagement brings energy. This discernment cannot be rushed. It develops through listening to your body when it says enough, listening to your breath when it speeds up, listening to the quiet signals that were once drowned out by urgency. You may start to notice that time feels different when you are not chasing it. Moments stretch, days feel less compressed. Your nervous system has more room to breathe. This does not mean life becomes easy. Challenges still arise. Responsibilities remain, but the relationship to them changes. You are no longer trying to outrun an invisible deadline. You are moving at a pace that your body can sustain. This is not falling behind. It is returning to yourself. If it feels right, you might try a small experiment sometime today. Not as a task, as a curiosity. Allow one moment to be unproductive, truly unproductive. No improvement, no planning, no catching up, just presence. Notice what happens inside, the discomfort, the urge to move, the eventual softening, if it comes. Whatever you notice is enough. You are learning how to be with time differently. not as an enemy to race against, but as a space you can inhabit. There is no finish line here, no standard to meet, only a gradual easing of the belief that you must always be moving to matter. We will continue from here, gently, without hurry. There is nowhere you need to get to in order to be worthy of rest. When rest starts to feel like something you have to earn, there is a subtle rule many people live by without realizing it. Rest is allowed only after everything else is done, not after some things, not after enough things, after everything. Because of this rule, rest rarely arrives. There is always one more message to answer, one more task to finish, one more loose end that feels irresponsible to ignore. So the body waits. You may tell yourself you will rest later, after this week, after this project, after things calm down, but calm keeps moving further away. This rule often forms quietly. It is not usually taught directly. It is absorbed. You learn it by watching what is praised. Productivity, sacrifice, pushing through. You learn it by noticing what is questioned, pausing too long, saying you are tired, needing space. Over time, the message becomes internal. If I stop, I have not earned it yet. This belief does not feel harsh at first. It can even feel responsible, mature, strong, but inside the body, it creates strain because the body does not understand earning. It understands rhythm, sleep and wake, tension and release, engagement and withdrawal. When rest is delayed too long, the body does not patiently wait. It compensates. Energy becomes brittle, focus narrows, emotions flatten or spike. You may notice that even when you finally stop, rest does not come easily. Your body stays alert. Your thoughts keep looping. This can feel frustrating. You did what you were supposed to do. You finished enough. Why can you not relax now? Nothing is wrong with you. Your system has learned that stopping is conditional, and conditions make it hard to feel safe. There is also fear underneath this rule. Fear that if you rest too soon, you will fall behind. Fear that easing up means letting go of control. Fear that without constant effort, things might unravel. So the body stays ready, even in bed, even on days off, even in moments meant for recovery. This is not restlessness. It is vigilance. Many people confuse the two. They think they have trouble relaxing, that they are bad at rest, that something about their personality resists calm. But what they are actually experiencing is a nervous system that does not yet trust permission. Permission that is not earned, permission that is given. In contemplative practice, there is a quiet reframe. Rest is not a reward. It is a requirement, not a luxury, not an indulgence, a biological need. When this is not honored, the body eventually insists, through exhaustion, through irritability, through loss of joy. These are not flaws. They are signals. You may notice resentment creeping in, toward work, toward people who need you, toward yourself for not being able to do more. This resentment is often misunderstood. It is not a sign that you do not care. It is a sign that you have been giving without pause. Care without rest becomes pressure, and pressure is unsustainable. There is often grief here too. Grief for the version of yourself who could keep going, who did not need to think about limits, who felt capable without cost. Letting go of that version can feel like loss, even if it was hurting you. So you try to recreate it by pushing, by delaying rest, by telling yourself you will slow down later. But later rarely arrives on its own. Rest has to be reintroduced gently, as something allowed, not something deserved. This can feel uncomfortable at first, even wrong. You may feel guilt when you stop before everything is done, a tightness in the chest, a voice that says you are being lazy or irresponsible. That voice is familiar, but it is not truth. It is a habit. Habits soften through repetition, not argument. The practice here is very small, almost invisible. Not taking a long break, not changing your life, just noticing when the belief appears. I cannot rest yet. and asking, very quietly, what would happen if I rested for 1 minute anyway? Not to rebel, not to prove a point, just to see. The body learns through experience, through moments where permission is granted and nothing collapses. A minute of stillness, a breath taken without multitasking, a pause before the next demand. These moments teach safety. They tell the nervous system that rest does not require completion, that you do not disappear when you stop, that the world does not punish you for easing up. Over time, the rule begins to loosen, not because you force it to, but because it is no longer needed. Right now, you do not need to change how you rest. You do not need to optimize it or make it effective. You only need to notice the relationship you have with it. Is it conditional? Is it delayed? Is it accompanied by guilt? This noticing is already a form of care. If it feels right, pause for a moment now. Notice how your body responds to the idea of resting without earning it. There may be resistance. There may be relief. There may be nothing at all. All of it is okay. We will continue to explore this slowly. Rest does not have to be another thing you get right. It can simply be something you are allowed to have. There is another layer beneath the belief that rest must be earned. It is the quiet discomfort of being with yourself when nothing is required, when tasks fall away, when demands pause, when there is no immediate role to perform. Something unfamiliar can surface. Silence, space, a sense of not knowing what to do next. For many people, this moment feels strangely unsafe, not because anything is wrong, but because identity has been shaped through usefulness. When you are needed, there is clarity. When you are productive, there is purpose. When you are busy, there is direction. Rest removes those anchors. You may notice this when you finally stop. The body slows, but the mind searches. What now? Who am I if I am not responding, producing, fixing? This can feel unsettling, even lonely. So the mind reaches for structure again. A plan, a screen, a thought about what comes next. Rest becomes filled, but true rest is not filled. It is spacious, and spaciousness can feel uncomfortable before it feels nourishing. This is where many people turn rest into another project. They try to do it correctly, efficiently, productively. They schedule it, optimize it, measure whether it worked. But the nervous system does not restore through optimization. It restores through safety. Safety comes from knowing that nothing bad happens when you are not performing. This is learned slowly, through repetition, through small moments where you allow yourself to stop without justification. You may notice resistance when you try this, a pull to explain, to defend your pause, to prove that you deserve this moment. That urge itself is information. It shows how deeply rest has been tied to worth. In mindfulness practice, there is an understanding that being precedes doing. That awareness does not need to earn its place. You exist before effort. Your body breathes without permission. Your heart beats without checking a list. Rest belongs to this same category. It is not something added after life is handled. It is part of how life is handled. When rest is withheld, everything else begins to cost more. Simple tasks feel heavy. Small interactions drain you. Joy feels distant. Not because joy is gone, but because the system is depleted. This depletion is not a personal flaw. It is a predictable outcome. You are not failing at rest. You have been taught to delay it. Relearning permission can feel awkward, even indulgent at first. You might notice guilt arising when you stop early, or a voice that says you are falling behind, or a subtle anxiety that you should be doing more. Instead of arguing with these sensations, see if you can meet them with curiosity. This guilt is not an enemy. It is a sign that you are stepping outside an old pattern. Patterns protest when they are no longer followed. You do not need to banish the guilt. You do not need to prove it wrong. You only need to let it be present while you rest anyway. This is how the nervous system learns something new, not through force, through coexistence, resting while discomfort is present, pausing while doubt hums quietly, stopping even when the habit says not yet. Over time, the discomfort changes. It softens. It loses urgency. The body begins to trust that rest is not dangerous, that nothing essential is lost in these pauses. You may start to notice subtle shifts. You recover more quickly after effort. Your patience returns. Your mind feels less brittle. These are signs of replenishment, not laziness. Rest does not make you less capable. It restores your capacity to care. There is also compassion that can emerge here, for yourself, for how long you have been pushing, for the reasons you learned to delay your own needs. You did not make these rules arbitrarily. They helped you survive something. But survival strategies are not meant to last forever. You are allowed to update them. If it feels right, consider this gentle reframe. Rest is not something you do when life allows it. It is something that allows life to be lived. You do not need to believe this yet. You only need to be open to the possibility. Perhaps today, you rest without finishing one thing. You pause without explaining. You stop before exhaustion demands it. Just once, notice what happens. Not in your thoughts, but in your body. There may be unease. There may be relief. There may be nothing dramatic at all. All of it counts. We will continue to move through this together, not by demanding change, but by allowing permission to arrive, slowly, where it was missing. Rest does not have to be earned to be real. It only has to be allowed. When saying yes becomes a way of staying safe, there is a moment many people recognize only in hindsight. You have already agreed. Your body tightens after the words leave your mouth. A quiet regret arrives before the task even begins. You may tell yourself it is nothing, that you are just tired. That helping is what you do, but beneath the habit of saying yes, there is often something more tender. For some, yes is not generosity. It is protection. Protection from disappointing others, from being misunderstood, from risking distance or conflict. At some point, you may have learned that agreement kept things smooth, that being accommodating reduced tension, that staying agreeable helped you belong. So the body learned to respond before the mind could check in. Yes came quickly, automatically, almost reflexively. This does not mean you are weak. It means you adapted. The nervous system is remarkably intelligent. It learns what reduces threat and repeats it. If saying yes once created safety, it will say yes again and again. Over time, this pattern becomes familiar, so familiar that you may not notice the cost until it accumulates. Fatigue that does not lift, resentment that surprises you, a sense of being pulled in too many directions. You may begin to feel invisible in your own life, not because others are taking too much, but because you have not learned how to protect your limits without fear. This fear is often quiet. It does not announce itself as fear. It sounds like responsibility, like kindness, like being a good person. But kindness that consistently overrides the body's signals becomes something else. It becomes self-abandonment. This is difficult to see from the inside, especially if being needed has long been part of how you understand your worth. You may notice that when someone asks for something, your body responds before you decide. A tightening, a readiness, a leaning forward. The question is answered internally before it is spoken aloud. This is not conscious choice. It is conditioning. In mindfulness practice, there is a simple but powerful observation. The body reveals truth faster than thought. If your body braces when you agree, that is information. It does not mean you should say no. It means you should pause. But pausing can feel dangerous when yes has been your way of staying safe. What if they are upset? What if they withdraw? What if they think less of me? These fears do not arise randomly. They come from history, from moments when boundaries were not welcomed, when needs were dismissed, when approval felt conditional. Your system remembers, so it chooses the path of least risk, agreement. Over time, however, the risk shifts. What once protected you begins to drain you. You may notice a growing heaviness before interactions, a sense of obligation rather than willingness, a loss of joy in helping. This is not because you no longer care. It is because care has been asked to operate without rest or consent. True generosity includes choice. Without choice, giving becomes survival. There is often grief here. Grief for how long you have been managing other people's needs alongside your own. Grief for the parts of you that have waited quietly while you stayed available. This grief does not need fixing. It needs space, but space requires pause, and pause can feel unfamiliar. The practice here is not to start saying no to everything. It is to begin listening before you answer, to notice the body's response, to feel the difference between willingness and fear. Willingness feels open, fear feels tight. You do not need to act on this distinction immediately. Just noticing, it begins to change the pattern. For many people, the hardest part is trusting that relationships can survive honesty. That connection does not depend on constant availability. This trust grows slowly, through small experiments, through moments where you delay your response, where you ask for time, where you check in with yourself before agreeing. These moments are not failures of kindness. They are acts of self-respect. Right now, you may not know how to say no without guilt. You may not know how to set limits without anxiety. That is okay. This chapter is not about doing it perfectly. It is about recognizing that your yes has been doing a lot of emotional work, and that you are allowed to learn a new way of staying safe. There is another piece to this pattern that often remains unseen. It is not just about others asking too much. It is about what happens inside you when you imagine disappointing someone. That image alone can create tension, a tightening in the chest, a heat in the face, a rush to smooth things over before discomfort appears. For many people, this reaction formed long before adulthood, in environments where harmony mattered more than honesty, where conflict felt dangerous, where being easy to deal with kept things calm. So you learned to anticipate, to adjust yourself before anyone had to ask, to sense what was wanted and provide it quickly. This skill may have helped you belong. It may have kept you emotionally safe at a time when options were limited. But skills learned for survival can become burdens when circumstances change. Now, you may be safe enough to pause, but the body has not yet learned that, so it keeps responding as if urgency remains. This is why boundaries feel hard, not because you do not understand them, but because your nervous system associates them with risk. Risk of distance, risk of tension, risk of being seen as difficult. The body would rather absorb discomfort internally than face it externally. That choice made sense once. It does not mean it still has to be the only option. Learning to pause before saying yes is not about becoming selfish. It is about restoring choice. Choice returns when you allow yourself a moment, a breath, a delay. Even a simple phrase like "let me think about it" can feel radical, not because it is extreme, but because it interrupts an old reflex. That interruption can bring up anxiety. That is normal. Anxiety does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means you are stepping outside a familiar pattern. What matters is not eliminating the anxiety, but staying present while it passes. You may discover that many requests survive a pause, that people adapt, that relationships do not collapse because you did not respond immediately. This realization takes time. It settles slowly into the body through lived experience. There may also be moments when someone does react poorly, when your boundary is not welcomed, when discomfort does arise. This can be painful, but it is also clarifying. It shows you which connections relied on your constant availability and which can hold mutual respect. This is not about cutting people off. It is about letting relationships reorganize around truth rather than fear. You do not need to explain yourself endlessly. You do not need to justify your limits. Limits do not require defense to be valid. If it feels right, you might begin with the smallest step possible. Not a no, just a pause. Notice how your body feels when you do not answer right away. Notice the urge to rush, the stories that appear. Let them be there. This is how capacity returns, not through force, through listening. Over time, your yes may begin to sound different, less tight, more grounded, chosen, rather than automatic. And when you do say no, it may come with steadiness rather than apology. This steadiness is not something you create. It emerges when the body learns that safety does not depend on self-sacrifice. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to consider yourself in the equation. Saying yes does not have to be your shield anymore. You can learn new ways to stay safe, ways that include you. And that learning can happen slowly, one pause at a time. When the mind never fully closes its tabs, there is a kind of tiredness that sleep does not touch. You lie down, you close your eyes, your body rests, but your mind keeps working. Thoughts move like open windows. One leads to another. A memory turns into a plan turns into worry. A worry turns into self-correction. Nothing feels urgent, yet nothing fully stops. You may tell yourself this is just thinking, that everyone does this, that it will quiet down eventually. But inside, there is a subtle strain, a sense that your mind has not had permission to be off duty. This is not overthinking in the way it is often described. It is not racing thoughts or panic. It is persistence. The mind stays partially engaged at all times, tracking, reviewing, anticipating, even in moments meant for rest. This pattern often forms in response to unpredictability. When things once felt uncertain, thinking ahead helped. When mistakes had consequences, mental rehearsal protected you. When being prepared mattered, staying mentally active felt necessary. So the mind learned to stay open, to keep tabs running, to never fully shut down. Over time, this becomes familiar. So familiar that quiet can feel unnatural. You may notice discomfort when there is nothing to think about, a restlessness, an urge to fill the space, not because you enjoy thinking, but because stopping feels unfamiliar. The body may be lying still, but the nervous system remains engaged. This constant low-level activity is exhausting, not in a dramatic way, in a slow, cumulative way. You might feel foggy during the day, irritable without knowing why, less patient than you used to be, and you may judge yourself for it. Why can't I focus? Why am I so tired? Why does my mind never settle? These questions add another layer of effort, another tab. What often goes unnoticed is this: the mind is not malfunctioning. It is doing what it learned to do: protect, prepare, prevent. But what once protected you may now be costing you rest. In mindfulness traditions, there is a gentle understanding. The mind settles when it feels safe enough to stop scanning. Silencing the mind rarely works. Telling it to calm down often increases resistance. The mind does not respond to commands. It responds to permission. Permission to not know. Permission to not plan. Permission to let the moment be incomplete. This permission is difficult for many people, especially those who learn that vigilance equals responsibility. Letting the mind rest can feel irresponsible at first, as if you are neglecting something important. But constant readiness is not the same as care. Care has rhythm, engagement followed by release. When release is missing, even care becomes strain. You may notice that your mind jumps ahead the moment there is space. In the shower, while walking, just before sleep. This is not because these moments invite thinking. It is because they remove distraction. Without external input, the internal noise becomes louder. The instinct then is to add more input. Music, podcasts, scrolling. These can help temporarily, but they do not teach the mind how to rest. They only keep it occupied. True mental rest is not stimulation. It is allowing the mind to close what is no longer needed. But closing tabs requires trust. Trust that nothing terrible will happen if you stop monitoring. That trust cannot be forced. It has to be built. Built through small moments where you notice that when you stop thinking, the world does not collapse. This noticing is subtle. It may show up as a brief pause between thoughts, a moment of blankness that feels slightly uncomfortable, then slightly relieving. These moments matter. They are not emptiness. They are recovery. The mind has a natural rhythm. Just like the body, activity followed by stillness, attention followed by release. When that rhythm is restored, clarity returns without effort. You do not need to empty your mind. You do not need to stop thinking altogether. You only need to notice when thinking has become constant and allow brief moments where it does not need to continue. For now, there is nothing to fix, nothing to master, just an invitation to see that your mind has been working very hard and that its tiredness makes sense. We will continue to explore how safety allows thinking to soften without force, without control. For now, it is enough to recognize this. Your mind is not the problem. It has simply not been allowed to rest yet. There is a deeper tenderness beneath the constant activity of the mind. It is not just habit. It is care that never learned how to rest. Many people who live this way are not careless thinkers. They are attentive, sensitive, aware of nuance. They notice what others miss. They sense shifts in tone. They pick up on what might go wrong before it happens. This sensitivity is not a flaw. It is often a strength that developed early. But when sensitivity has nowhere to set things down, it turns inward and becomes noise. The mind keeps circling because it does not trust that awareness can pause, that something important will not be lost if attention softens. So it holds on. You may notice that even pleasant moments carry a faint edge. Enjoyment mixed with monitoring. Presence mixed with preparation. Part of you is here. Part of you is already elsewhere. This split is exhausting, and yet it has likely been normal for a very long time. When the mind never closes its tabs, it is often because no one showed it how, or because closing them once felt risky. Perhaps there were times when missing something mattered, when being unprepared had consequences, when letting your guard down led to hurt or confusion. The mind remembers these moments, not as stories, but as instructions. Stay open, stay alert, do not shut down. So when you try to rest, the mind does not resist because it is stubborn. It resists because it is loyal to keeping you safe. Understanding this changes the relationship. Instead of seeing your mind as an enemy to quiet, you begin to see it as something that needs reassurance. Reassurance that rest is allowed, that nothing bad happens when not everything is tracked, that you can return if needed. In mindfulness practice, there is an emphasis on friendliness toward the mind, not indulgence, not control. Friendliness. This means meeting mental activity with curiosity rather than frustration, noticing thought without chasing it, allowing it to pass without needing to resolve it. This is different from trying to stop thinking. Stopping implies force. Friendliness implies trust. You may begin to notice that when you stop arguing with your thoughts, they soften on their own. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually. The mind closes tabs when it feels it does not have to defend its existence. This often begins in the body. When the body feels safer, the mind follows. A slightly longer exhale, a jaw that unclenches without instruction, a moment where the breath moves without being managed. These moments are subtle, but they are signals. Signals that the system is learning something new. You might notice, at first, brief gaps, a second or two where there is no thought, then the mind returns. That is okay. Those gaps are not failures, they are rests. Just as muscles strengthen through cycles of effort and release, the mind restores through moments of non-engagement. You do not need to hold the gap. You do not need to extend it. Let it come and go. This teaches the mind that stillness is survivable. Over time, you may find that thinking becomes more intentional, less compulsive, more responsive than automatic. Not because you worked harder at calming down, but because you stopped demanding that the mind stay on all the time. There is also compassion that can arise here, for how much your mind has carried, for how long it has been working without rest. You may feel a quiet sadness, or gratitude, or both. This too is part of settling. Nothing needs to be done with these feelings. They are signs of reconnection. If it feels right, You might try this at some point today, not as a practice to get right, but as a gentle experiment. When you notice your mind looping, see if you can name it silently, as holding, not judging, just recognizing. Then take one breath and imagine setting one small thing down. Not everything, just one. Notice what happens. The mind may pick it back up immediately. That is fine. The act of setting down matters more than how long it stays down. This is how trust builds. Through repetition, through kindness. Your mind does not need to be emptied to rest. It only needs to know that it is allowed to pause. And that permission can be offered again and again, without force, without expectation. We will continue to move toward that permission together, slowly, at a pace your system can accept. Your mind has been open for a long time. It deserves moments of closure, when your body keeps the score, even after the moment has passed. There is a way the body remembers that is different from the mind. It does not store stories neatly. It stores sensations, a tightening that appears before you know why, a flinch when a tone changes, a breath that shortens without permission. You may tell yourself that nothing is happening, that you are safe now, that the moment is over, and yet your body responds as if it is not. This can feel confusing, even frustrating. You might think you are overreacting, that you should be past this by now, that it does not make sense to feel on edge when there is no clear reason. But the body does not operate on logic. It operates on pattern. If certain experiences once required you to stay alert, your body learned to prepare before your mind could catch up. It learned to recognize signals, a look, a pause, a shift in energy. These signals do not mean danger now, but they once did. So the body responds quickly, automatically, without waiting for confirmation. This is not weakness. It is memory. Not memory you can always access consciously, but memory embedded in muscle, breath, posture. You may notice that your body reacts faster than your thoughts, that you tense before you understand, that your heart speeds up before you can reassure yourself. This does not mean you are stuck. It means your body is trying to help. In mindfulness traditions, there is an understanding that experience lives in layers, thoughts on the surface, sensations beneath, conditioning deeper still. Working only at the level of thought often leaves the deeper layers untouched. You can tell yourself that you are fine, that nothing bad is happening, and still feel uneasy. That unease is not disobedience, it is communication. The body is saying, I remember. Often, this memory comes from moments that did not feel dramatic at the time. Prolonged stress, emotional unpredictability, having to read the room carefully. Nothing explosive, nothing obvious, just a long period of needing to stay ready. The body adapts to this by staying slightly tense all the time. It does not know when the next moment will require response, so it prepares continuously. Over time, this readiness becomes baseline. You may not even notice it until exhaustion arrives, or irritability, or a sense of never fully settling, and you may wonder why rest does not restore you, why calm feels just out of reach. It is because the body has not yet received the message that the vigilance can end. This message cannot be delivered through explanation alone. The body learns through experience, through moments where it is allowed to respond differently and nothing bad happens, through gentleness rather than demand. Many people try to override bodily responses. They push through discomfort. They ignore signals. They tell themselves to be rational. This often increases the gap between mind and body. Healing begins when you stop asking the body to justify itself. When you treat sensations not as problems, but as information. A tight chest does not mean something is wrong. It means something is remembered. A shallow breath does not mean you are failing at calm. It means your system is still checking for safety. This changes how you relate to yourself. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you begin to ask, "What happened that taught my body this?" Not to analyze endlessly, not to relive, just to acknowledge. Acknowledgement is calming. It tells the body that its experience is valid, that it does not need to escalate to be heard. You may notice that when you name sensations gently, they soften, not disappear. Soften. This is the beginning of regulation, not control. Regulation. Regulation happens when the body feels accompanied, when sensations are met with presence rather than resistance. You do not need to relive the past to heal this. You do not need to identify every source. You only need to stay with what is here now, with kindness. If it feels right, notice your body as you read this, not scanning for problems, just noticing. Where is there holding? Where is there ease? You do not need to change anything. Awareness itself is already a message. It says, you are not alone anymore. We will continue from here, learning how to speak the body's language slowly, so it can finally hear what the mind has been trying to say for a long time, that the moment has passed, and that it is allowed to rest. There is something deeply relieving that happens when the body is no longer argued with, when its signals are met not with correction, but with listening. For many people, this is unfamiliar territory. They have spent years explaining sensations away, minimizing them, telling themselves to calm down, move on, be reasonable. But the body does not calm down because it is told to. It calms down because it feels understood. When the body senses understanding, it no longer has to shout. It no longer needs to tighten as much. It no longer needs to brace so early. This is why gentleness matters more than technique. You may notice that when you approach a sensation with curiosity rather than urgency, it changes quality. A tightness becomes warmth. A knot becomes pressure. A racing heart becomes movement. The sensation does not vanish, but it becomes less threatening. This is not imagination. It is physiology. The nervous system regulates through relationship, through being met. Many people think healing means convincing the body that danger is gone, but the body does not learn through convincing. It learns through experience, through moments when it reacts and nothing bad follows, through moments when it is allowed to feel what it feels and is not punished for it. You may begin to notice this in everyday situations. A conversation that once left you shaken now settles more quickly. A sound that used to startle you still registers, but does not linger as long. A moment of tension passes without spiraling. These shifts are subtle, easy to overlook, but they are signs of recalibration. The body is learning that it no longer needs to stay on high alert all the time. There may also be moments when sensations intensify, when awareness brings things to the surface. This does not mean you are going backward. It means you are making contact. Contact precedes release. In somatic mindfulness, there is a simple principle. What is allowed to be felt can change. What is resisted tends to persist. Allowing does not mean indulging. It means staying present without forcing an outcome. This presence is what tells the body it is not alone anymore. You might notice that naming sensations softly helps, not labeling them as anxiety or fear, but as pressure, heat, movement, tightness. Neutral language creates space. It keeps the mind from escalating the sensation into a story. Over time, the body begins to associate awareness with safety. Instead of threat, instead of thinking something is wrong, it learns something is being noticed. This is a profound shift, because once the body feels noticed, it can rest. Rest does not mean numbness. It means responsiveness without constant defense. You may start to feel more choice in how you respond. A pause before reacting. A breath before bracing. These pauses are not something you force. They appear when the body trusts the moment more. Trust is built slowly, through consistency, through kindness that does not withdraw when things feel uncomfortable. You do not need to rush this process. You do not need to fix your body. Your body is not broken. It has been doing its best to protect you with the information it had. Now, it is learning something new. If it feels right, you might try this at some point. When you notice a familiar sensation arise, instead of asking it to leave, you might say silently, "I see you." Then stay with the sensation just long enough to feel its edges, not its story. Its shape. Notice if it shifts. Notice if it softens. Notice if it simply stays. Whatever happens is okay. The practice is not to make sensations disappear. It is to change your relationship to them, from resistance to companionship. This is how the body learns that the moment has passed, not because it is told so, but because it is no longer alone with the memory. We will continue to move with this understanding, slowly, respectfully. Your body has been carrying history quietly for a long time. It deserves patience as it learns how to let go. When you stop trying to fix yourself and start letting yourself be, there is a quiet exhaustion that comes from believing you are a problem to be solved. Not broken in an obvious way, just subtly wrong, slightly behind, in need of improvement. This belief often hides beneath good intentions, self-awareness, growth, wanting to be better, but over time, it turns inward and becomes pressure. You may notice how quickly your mind looks for what needs fixing. A feeling arises, and the question follows. Why am I like this? How do I get rid of this? What am I doing wrong? Even rest becomes conditional, allowed only after progress, after insight, after something changes. This constant orientation toward fixing keeps the nervous system engaged. There is always something to work on, something to resolve, something to get past. So even when nothing is happening, you are still efforting. This is another form of overload. The body does not experience curiosity as curiosity when it is driven by urgency. It experiences it as threat, a sense that something is not okay yet. Many people confuse self-compassion with self-improvement, but they feel very different in the body. Self-improvement is tight, forward-leaning, focused on outcome. Self-compassion is spacious. It does not require you to arrive anywhere. When you are trying to fix yourself, there is always a future version of you that matters more than the present one. You endure now so you can be better later, but later keeps moving, and the present never gets to rest. This creates a subtle disconnection from yourself. You relate to your experience as an obstacle rather than a companion. Tiredness becomes something to overcome. Sensitivity becomes something to manage. Overwhelm becomes something to eliminate. None of this is wrong. It is understandable. In a world that rewards optimization, it makes sense to turn that lens inward. But the body does not heal through optimization. It heals through acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means allowing what is already here to be here without opposition. This is difficult when you have learned that acceptance equals giving up, that if you stop trying, things will get worse. But there is a difference between effort that comes from fear and engagement that comes from care. Fear-driven effort never rests. Care-based engagement knows when to pause. When you stop trying to fix yourself, you may notice a wave of uncertainty. If I am not working on myself, what am I doing? If I am not improving, am I wasting time? These questions arise because effort has been part of how you orient to safety. Letting go of effort feels like stepping into open space without a map. This can feel destabilizing at first. You may notice boredom, discomfort, a sense of floating. These are not signs that you are doing something wrong. They are signs that you are no longer gripping. Gripping takes energy. Releasing reveals what was being held. Sometimes what is revealed is tenderness, a sadness that was kept at bay by constant motion, a longing that never had room to surface. This does not mean something is broken inside you. It means something has been waiting. When fixing stops, listening begins. Listening without agenda, without needing an answer, just staying present with what arises. This presence can feel unfamiliar if you have spent years analyzing yourself, but it is deeply regulating. The nervous system relaxes when it is no longer being evaluated. There is a profound relief in realizing that you are not a project. You are a living system, responsive, adaptive, already whole. This does not mean change will not happen. It means change does not need to be forced. When pressure lifts, natural movement returns. The body knows how to settle when it is not being rushed. The mind knows how to clarify when it is not being pushed. You may begin to notice small shifts, moments of ease that appear unexpectedly, responses that come without rehearsal. These are not improvements. They are returns. Returns to a baseline that was covered over by effort. If it feels right, pause for a moment now. Notice how your body feels when you imagine not needing to fix anything. There may be resistance. There may be relief. There may be confusion. All are welcome. Nothing needs to be resolved. This chapter is not asking you to stop caring about yourself. It is inviting you to care differently, to relate to yourself, not as something to repair, but as something to accompany. We will continue gently from here. There is no rush toward wholeness. You have not been missing. You have been here all along. There is a softer truth that often comes only after effort loosens. When you are no longer trying to improve yourself, you begin to notice how much of your life has been lived in preparation. Preparation for being calmer, for being more healed, for finally becoming someone who deserves ease. But ease does not arrive at the end of effort. It arrives in the absence of pressure. When the impulse to fix quiets, you may notice a new quality of attention, less sharp, less driven, more receptive. You begin to feel yourself from the inside, rather than looking at yourself from the outside. This shift is subtle, but profound. Instead of asking, "What should I do with this feeling?" you begin to ask, "Can I stay with it?" Staying does not mean indulging. It means allowing experience to complete itself without interruption. So much of our inner life remains unfinished because we rush to resolve it. We analyze sadness instead of letting it move. We label fear instead of letting it soften. We fix overwhelm instead of letting it ebb. When fixing stops, emotions regain their natural arc. They rise, they move, they pass. Not because you forced them to, but because nothing was blocking their flow. This is how the nervous system restores balance, not through insight alone, but through permission. Permission to be as you are without agenda. You may notice moments where you forget to monitor yourself, where you laugh without checking how it sounds, where you rest without evaluating whether it worked. These moments are not accidental. They are glimpses of your system, remembering how to function without surveillance. Surveillance is exhausting, even when it is self-directed. Constant self-observation keeps the nervous system activated. There is always something to adjust, something to improve. Letting yourself be is an act of trust. Trust that you are not a danger to yourself, that if you stop managing every internal movement, you will not fall apart. This trust is often the last thing to arrive, because it requires releasing control. Control once served a purpose. It helped you cope. It helped you survive. But survival strategies are heavy companions. At some point, they can be thanked and set down. You do not need to abandon growth to do this. Growth continues naturally when force is removed. Like a plant that bends toward light without instruction, your system knows how to orient toward health. It just needs room. You may notice that when you stop fixing, decisions become clearer. Boundaries feel more natural. Energy returns in small, quiet ways. Not because you did something right, but because you stopped doing something unnecessary. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is a gentle one, the kind that happens when you are not watching for it. There may still be days when the impulse to fix returns. That is okay. Habits soften gradually. They do not disappear overnight. When you notice yourself slipping back into problem-solving mode, you do not need to correct it. Just notice and allow the next moment to be simpler. This is not about becoming passive. It is about becoming present. Presence does not require effort. It requires permission. You are allowed to exist without agenda, without improvement, without justification. If nothing else, let this settle somewhere in you. You do not need to become better in order to rest. You do not need to understand yourself completely to be at ease. You do not need to fix what is not broken. You are not a project waiting to be completed. You are a living process, already in motion. already responding. And sometimes, the most healing thing you can do is to stop trying to make yourself different and allow yourself to arrive exactly where you are. When peace begins to feel ordinary instead of earned, there is a quiet moment that often goes unnoticed. Not dramatic, not marked by insight, just a subtle shift where you realize something feels lighter and you are not sure when that happened. You are moving through a familiar day, doing familiar things, and the weight you once carried so constantly is not as present. This can feel strange at first, almost suspicious. You may find yourself scanning for what is missing, waiting for the tension to return, wondering if this ease will last. Because for a long time, peace felt conditional, something that appeared only after effort, after understanding, after getting it right. So when peace arrives without clear cause, the mind does not quite trust it. You might think, this must be temporary, or I must be forgetting something important. This response makes sense. Your system learned to associate calm with completion, with safety earned through vigilance. When vigilance softens, peace can feel undeserved. But this is an old belief loosening. Peace does not always arrive as a breakthrough. Often, it arrives as neutrality. Moments where your body is not bracing, where your breath is not monitored, where your mind is not solving. Nothing special, just less strain. For many people, this is unfamiliar territory. They are used to emotional extremes, high effort followed by collapse, relief followed by anxiety. A steady baseline can feel almost empty by comparison. But this steadiness is not emptiness. It is regulation. Regulation feels quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply allows you to be where you are, without friction. You may notice this first in your body. Sitting feels easier. Your jaw unclenches without instruction. Your shoulders lower when you are not thinking about them. These changes are not achievements. They are signs that your system is no longer working overtime. There may be moments when you miss the intensity, the sense of purpose that came from fixing, striving, holding together. This can be confusing. Intensity can feel like meaning when it has been your primary state for a long time. Letting go of that intensity can bring up questions. If I am not managing myself constantly, who am I? If I am not healing, what am I doing? These questions do not need answers yet. They are simply markers of transition. You are moving from effort to embodiment, from doing peace to allowing it. This does not mean life becomes effortless. Challenges still arise. Emotions still move. But they pass through a system that no longer grips so tightly. You may notice that when something difficult happens, your recovery is quicker. You feel the impact, but you do not stay there as long. This is not because you are suppressing anything. It is because your system trusts itself to move through experience. Trust reduces stickiness. What once lingered now flows. You may also notice that you are less interested in fixing others, less reactive to their moods, less responsible for outcomes that are not yours. This is not detachment. It is clarity. When you are no longer overloaded, you can see more clearly what belongs to you and what does not. Peace, in this sense, is not passive. It is discerning. It allows you to respond without urgency, to choose without pressure. This can feel almost boring at first, but boredom here is not emptiness. It is space. Space where your nervous system is not being hijacked. Space where attention can rest. You may notice that your sense of time changes. Days feel less compressed. Moments feel more spacious. Not because you are doing less, but because you are no longer rushing internally. This internal rushing was costly. Even when you were physically still, as it fades, energy returns in quieter ways. A desire to move, to create, to connect, not driven by need, but by inclination. This is how aliveness feels when it is not fueled by stress. If it feels right, pause for a moment now. Notice how your body feels when you imagine peace as something ordinary, not a peak state, not a reward, just a background condition. There may be resistance, there may be relief. Both are welcome. Peace does not need to be protected to be real. It does not shatter because you stop paying attention to it. It remains because it is supported by regulation, not effort. We will continue from here, exploring how this ordinary peace can be lived with, without turning it into another thing to maintain. For now, it is enough to recognize this. You do not have to earn ease anymore, and you do not have to be afraid when it arrives quietly. There is a moment that arrives quietly, often after everything else has softened, a moment when you realize you are no longer waiting for yourself to collapse. You are not bracing for the next surge of exhaustion. You are not scanning for signs that you should be doing more. You are simply here. This can feel unfamiliar in a way that is hard to name. For a long time, your inner world may have been organized around recovery. Work hard, then recover. Hold together, then fall apart. Push, then rest. Peace lived in the spaces between strain. When strain fades, the structure changes. There is no longer a clear before and after. No dramatic contrast. And the mind, used to intensity, may not know how to orient itself. You might notice a subtle urge to create friction, to worry about something small, to reintroduce pressure where none is needed. This is not sabotage. It is familiarity. The nervous system learned to recognize itself through tension, through activation, through effort. When those signals quiet, it takes time to trust the new baseline. Peace feels strange when it is no longer something you work toward, when it is simply there, accompanying ordinary moments, washing dishes, walking down the street, sitting in silence, nothing profound, nothing to interpret, just ease without explanation. This is where many people become afraid they are becoming complacent, that without pressure, they will lose motivation, that without struggle, they will lose meaning. But peace does not erase direction, it clarifies it. When urgency fades, what remains is choice. You may begin to notice that your actions come from preference rather than avoidance. You do things because you want to, not because you are afraid not to. This feels different in the body. There is less push, less tightening, more steadiness. You may still care deeply. You may still work hard, but the work does not cost you in the same way. This is not detachment from life. It is participation without self-erosion. Another quiet shift may happen here. You may stop narrating your internal state so much. You are less interested in analyzing how you are doing, less invested in tracking progress. Not because you are avoiding yourself, but because you no longer need to monitor safety constantly. Peace allows attention to turn outward again, to notice the world without filtering everything through the self. Colors feel clearer, sounds feel less intrusive, people feel less demanding. This does not mean you never feel overwhelmed again. It means overwhelm no longer defines your baseline. When it appears, it is a state, not an identity, and states pass. There may be moments when you grieve the intensity you once lived with, not because it was good, but because it was familiar. Letting go of a long-held mode of being can feel like loss, even when what you are letting go of was painful. This grief is gentle. It does not demand action. It is simply part of transition. You are learning how to live without carrying everything so tightly. That learning takes time. If you find yourself reaching for old habits, self-criticism, urgency, fixing, you do not need to correct them. Just notice. Notice how different they feel now. Heavier, less necessary. Peace makes what no longer fits more obvious. You are not obligated to maintain this peace. It does not depend on vigilance. It is supported by something deeper than effort, by regulation, by permission, by trust that you can move through experience without bracing for collapse. If it feels right, take a breath here, not to deepen it, just to notice it. Notice how it moves without instruction. That movement is life continuing on its own. Peace does not need to be held. It does not need to be guarded. It is not fragile. It is simply what remains when the work of protecting yourself has finally been allowed to rest. And if this peace fades at times, that does not mean you have lost it. It means you are human. The ground you have found is still there, waiting quietly beneath the noise, ready to return when effort loosens again. There is nothing you need to do to deserve that return. It happens because you no longer believe that ease must be earned. When you realize you are no longer carrying everything alone, there is a moment that arrives quietly, often without ceremony. You notice that something you used to hold so tightly is no longer in your hands, not because it was taken, not because you dropped it intentionally, but because, at some point, you stopped gripping. This realization can feel almost disorienting. For a long time, your inner world may have been shaped by responsibility for how things turn out, for how others feel, for keeping everything steady. Carrying became normal, even when it was heavy. So when the weight begins to distribute differently, when you are no longer the sole structure holding everything together, the absence can feel strange. You might ask yourself, what changed? What did I do differently? Often, the answer is nothing dramatic. You did not fix yourself. You did not solve every pattern. You did not finally get it right. You simply stopped insisting on doing it all alone. This shift does not always happen consciously. It emerges through small permissions. Moments when you rested before exhaustion. Moments when you paused instead of reacting. Moments when you let something remain unfinished without punishing yourself. Each of these moments loosened the load. Over time, your system learned something new. That not everything depends on you. That support can exist without being forced. That life continues even when you soften your grip. This can bring relief and also vulnerability. When you are no longer carrying everything, you may feel exposed at first. Who am I if I am not the one holding it all together? What happens if I let others carry their part? What if something goes wrong? These questions arise not because something is wrong now, but because your identity has been intertwined with holding for a long time. Letting go of that role can feel like losing a piece of yourself. But there is another way to see it. You are not losing yourself. You are meeting yourself without the armor, without the constant readiness, without the pressure to anticipate every outcome. This is tender ground. You may notice emotions surfacing that were once held back by effort. A softness, a quiet sadness, a relief that feels almost too big. These emotions do not mean you are regressing. They mean space has opened. Space allows what was compressed to expand. You may also notice a shift in how you relate to others. You listen without trying to fix. You offer support without absorbing responsibility. You allow people to have their own reactions without managing them. This does not make you less caring. It makes your care cleaner. Care without entanglement is lighter, and lighter care is sustainable. You may find that when you stop carrying everything, others step in more naturally, or situations resolve themselves without your intervention. This can feel surprising, even unsettling. If you have been the stabilizer for a long time, you may not trust that things can hold without you. But life has more supports than you were taught to see. Some of them appear only when you stop filling every gap. This does not mean you disappear. It means you take your rightful place within the system rather than above it. You are part of the whole, not the sole container. This realization can change how your body feels in the world. You may notice a deeper sense of ground beneath you, less forward lean, more vertical presence, standing instead of bracing. This is not passivity, it is alignment. You are no longer compensating for what is not yours to carry. There may still be moments when old habits return, when you instinctively take on more than belongs to you, when you feel the familiar urge to hold everything together. That is okay. Habits formed over years do not disappear overnight. What matters is that now, you notice, and noticing gives you choice. Choice to step back, choice to share the load, choice to trust the moment a little more than before. You are not abandoning responsibility, you are redefining it. Responsibility that includes you, that respects your limits, That does not require self-erasure. This chapter is not about becoming independent in a rigid way. It is about becoming connected without collapse, knowing when to engage, knowing when to release. If it feels right, pause for a moment now. Notice how it feels in your body to imagine not carrying everything alone. There may be fear, there may be relief. Both are honest. We will continue from here, exploring how this shared ground can be trusted, how support can be received without guilt, and how your presence can remain whole without holding the world on your shoulders. For now, it is enough to recognize this truth. You were never meant to carry everything by yourself. There is a gentler phase that follows this realization. After the relief, after the vulnerability, a phase where your body begins to test what it means to trust support. Not all at once. In small moments, you notice that you do not rush to intervene. You allow a pause to exist without filling it. You let someone struggle a little without rescuing them. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, as if you are neglecting a duty. The impulse to step in may still arise, a tightening in the chest, a readiness in the hands. But now, there is something new alongside it. Choice. You can feel the impulse without obeying it immediately. You can wait long enough to see what else is possible. Often, what happens next is surprising. Things move forward without you forcing them. People find their own footing. Situations settle without your constant management. This does not mean you are no longer needed. It means you are no longer over-functioning. Over-functioning once felt like care. Now it reveals itself as exhaustion. As you step back into balance, your energy begins to return, not in bursts, in steadiness. You may find that when you do offer help, it feels cleaner, less resentful, more present. You are there because you want to be, not because you feel obligated. This changes the texture of connection. Relationships begin to breathe. Space appears where there was once tension. Conversations feel less loaded. You are no longer carrying the emotional weight of the room. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you clear. Clarity allows you to respond rather than react, to support without disappearing, to care without collapsing. There is also a subtle shift in how you experience your own needs. You notice them sooner. You take them more seriously, not in a demanding way, in a respectful way. You rest before depletion. You pause before resentment. You listen before pushing yourself past your limits. This listening is not dramatic. It is quiet and consistent. And because of that, it is sustainable. You may begin to feel more at home in your body, less forward-leaning, more grounded. Standing feels different when you are not holding everyone else up. You might also notice moments of grief returning. Grief for how long you believed you had to do it all alone. Grief for the support you did not know how to receive. This grief is not something to analyze. It is something to allow. Allowing it does not pull you backward. It completes something unfinished. As it moves through, it leaves behind space. In that space, a quieter confidence begins to form. Not confidence built on control or competence. Confidence built on trust. Trust that you can meet what arises. Trust that you do not have to anticipate everything. Trust that you are not alone in the process of living. This trust is not blind. It is embodied. It lives in the way your breath moves more freely, in the way your shoulders no longer brace by default, in the way your attention rests without scanning constantly. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are returning it to its proper scale. What belongs to you stays with you. What does not, you allow to pass. This discernment is not rigid. It adapts moment by moment. Some days you carry more. Some days you carry less. But you are no longer carrying everything. That difference matters. If there is one thing to let settle here, let it be this. You do not need to earn support by exhausting yourself. You do not need to prove your worth by holding the world together. You are allowed to be one part of a larger whole, supported by forces you do not have to manage. If it feels right, take a breath now. not to change it, just to notice it. Notice how it arrives without effort, how it leaves without being pushed. That is how support works too. It arrives when there is space. It stays when it is allowed. You have been making that space, and nothing has fallen apart. This is not the end of the path. It is a different way of walking, one where you are no longer alone under the weight of everything you care about, one where your presence is enough without carrying the whole world on your shoulders. When you finally let the weight settle, there is a quiet kind of ending that does not feel like an ending at all. It feels more like setting something down, not dramatically, not with certainty, just a gradual loosening of the hands. You may notice it in your body first, a sense that you are no longer holding your breath while waiting for something to happen, a feeling of being here without bracing for what comes next. Nothing has been fixed, nothing has been conquered, and yet, something is different. You are not asking yourself to carry so much anymore. This matters. For a long time, your strength may have been measured by how much you could endure, how much you could manage, how well you could keep going. But endurance is not the same as ease, and surviving is not the same as living. What you have been learning, slowly, quietly, is that your system does not need more effort. It needs less pressure. You are not broken. You never were. You were overloaded. Overloaded by responsibility that grew without boundaries, by vigilance that stayed long after it was needed, by care that did not include yourself. None of this was a mistake. These patterns helped you through something. They protected you when protection was necessary. But protection that never rests becomes a burden. And now, you are learning how to rest it. Not all at once, not perfectly, just enough. There may still be days when the old weight returns. Moments when you feel yourself tightening again, reaching, holding. That does not erase what you have touched here. It only reminds you that habits soften gradually. When that tightening happens, you do not need to judge it. You do not need to correct yourself. You can simply notice, and noticing is already a form of care. If you pause now, just briefly, you might sense how your breath moves when it is not being managed, how your body settles when it is not being asked to perform calm. There is nothing you need to remember from this space. No insight to carry forward. Just the felt sense that, at least for a moment, you were allowed to stop striving. Let that be enough. If at any point you drifted, that was not a failure. Rest does not require attention. It only requires permission. You are allowed to forget these words. You are allowed to move on. The body remembers what it needs. And if you ever find yourself returning to this feeling of being overloaded, you can remember this instead. You do not need to add more strength. You do not need to try harder. You can soften your grip, just a little. That softness is not weakness. It is intelligence. It is your system remembering how to come back to itself. Take one last gentle breath here, not to deepen it, not to calm anything, just to mark this pause. Then let the moment continue on its own. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be proven. You are already here.